give a background. So I work with Viacom, which is a massive media conglomerate. Some of our household brands you must have heard of, MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central. So I look after digital for Northern Europe and the UK for all the Viacom brands. I also work with Paramount Studios, which is one of the largest and oldest studios in the world. Apart from my day job at Viacom, I'm a Virgin Startup mentor, and I'm very proud to say that I am mentoring 2 female founders at the moment, both working in very different type of industries. I'm helping them to kind of work on digital and product management in their kind of day-to-day roles. So today I'm going to talk about a topic that's very close to my heart. Can women have it all? It's close to my heart because I've been asked this question a lot of times in kind of last 9-10 years of my career. I started my career as a software engineer in India, and then I moved to the UK about 6 years ago to do my MBA. So I've been operating in a male-dominated world for about 10 years. I've worked in different types of industries: telecom, healthcare, media, beauty, fashion, etc. Different types of industry, different types of people. I'm very proud to say that I've managed most male kind of dominated teams actually throughout my career, but I always feel quite lonely because I'm generally the only woman in most board meetings. I'm quite lonely. In Viacom, Viacom is a actually the ratio of male-female employees in Viacom is really good, but as you grow up the ladder, it's there's very few females. I think we've got 1 exec who's a female, and at my kind of director level, we probably have 5% representation, which is not good at all. So we are working very hard along with the HR team to make sure that we hire a lot of women, especially women with very good leadership potentials, not just for technology, but also for all other departments. And yeah, it's a mission, and hopefully we'll see a difference in the next 5 to 10 years' time. To kind of kickstart this presentation, I would like to show a video. So you can see a lot of Swiss-related stats there. Reason being, this topic actually, Can Women Have It All, was one of the most integral female-related topics discussed at the World Economic Forum in Davos in January this year. So a lot of corporates around the world gathered in one room to discuss about gender-biased leadership. And we spent a lot of time to kind of collect data from all over the world and what can be done better to make sure that we have good female representation at board level in all kind of companies as well as public sector. So yeah, I mean, I've been working on this topic for quite a long time. I write a lot of articles on LinkedIn as well on women in product, women in technology, etc. So can women have it all is an age-old debate. Women are often asked this question at some point in their lives. However, men aren't. So collected a few kind of diverse opinions that we have at the moment from strong female leaders across the world. And all these opinions are quite disparate, interestingly. The first opinion is from the CEO of Pepsi, Yin Nui. She's actually one of my role models. She strongly believes women cannot have it all. She's written a lot of articles, she's given interviews about this topic, and she strongly believes it's just not possible. Now, her rationale behind this is true. She says most women hit senior leadership levels around the same time when they want to start a family. It's also the same time when their parents are aging. So, she strongly feels our biological cycles does not allow us to actually have it all. I agree and disagree with this, but I think there are a lot of people in the industry who would probably agree to that. The second opinion I have is from Sheryl Sandberg, who is again a very strong role model, the CEO of Facebook. She challenges the question itself. She feels it's just not the right question. Women shouldn't be asked this question. And even if they are asked, there's no reason why women cannot have it all. The third opinion we have is from the CEO of Deloitte, Cathy Engelbert. She's happily married with 2 kids. She feels that yes, you can do it all as defined by you. Now, I personally probably agree with Cathy the most. Women obviously can have it all, but there's a lot of caveats to it. Before we move ahead, I'd like to share some facts that I found. Out of 197 heads of state, only 22 are women. Of all the people in the world in parliament, 13% only are women. Of the top 500 companies by revenues, only 21% are led by women. The wage difference between men and women for the same role is around 20%. Now, these stats are obviously disheartening, but they all say the same thing, that clearly there is a problem. We hear corporates, including Viacom, we all talk about what we are doing, different kind of schemes, etc., to bring women on par with men, at the leadership level or in junior levels. But clearly, there's still a lot of work to do. The stats is an example of that. Especially the last one, 20% wage gap. I think the recent BBC fiasco probably supports that the most. So what's the problem? And actually, I'd like this slide to be a bit more interactive with the audience. What I found from my research is kind of like top 4 kind of problems or problem areas. Women don't have enough role models. 53% of women drop out mid-career due to lack of supportive role models or clear career growth, which is very unfortunate. There is an ambition gap. Women do not dream big enough. They often question their own capabilities in spite of high credentials. I think this is very much in line with what my fellow speakers have said already. Women hesitate to apply for a job, thinking that they're just not good enough for it. I think there's a problem there with confidence when it comes to salaries, etc. I feel there's a problem with negotiation skills as well. When I went to business school, we had these different courses on negotiation skills, etc. And it was quite clear that women just feel they pull themselves back most of the times rather than pushing themselves forward. That's a big problem. And I personally feel some problems like these could be maybe resolved at early stages of one's growth. When you're in school, when little girls are taught to be, bold and question more and stuff like that. The third topic, again, it worries me. The reason being, motherhood. Again, my fellow speaker has spoken already. Motherhood changes many things for women, as we know. It impacts their appetite for challenging roles, long working hours, travel, business networking, etc. 43% of women have left traditional workforce due to motherhood. only 74% of women will rejoin workforce in any capacity, and 40% will return to full-time jobs. Now, these numbers are really, really dreadful. I'm really worried. I'm actually 5 months pregnant at the moment, so when I read this, I was really, I just hope I don't fall into one of these categories. Lastly, sexism still exists at the workplace. I've felt it many times. A lot of audience here might have felt the same. We all know, we see examples of companies like Uber, a lot of Silicon Valley startups, most of the times, going through, well, women going through sexual harassment, sexual bias, etc., etc. We are in 2017, and we say all these big words, etc., etc. Still, there's sexism, still all these things happen. Actually, I'd like to just open it up to the audience here at this stage. Do you guys feel, apart from these topics, is there any other thing you feel, any kind of problems?
I think there's a massive problem with how we define success, because, we talk about it in terms of getting to high positions in big companies, and actually I went to a training course for social entrepreneurs last year, and there were about 50 women there and 1 man, and all of these people were starting their own businesses. The majority of those businesses will probably not make it big, but isn't that success?
Yeah, absolutely, and in my kind of later slides you will see that I actually touch upon this topic. I think definition is very important. How you define success. Your definition of success would be very different from mine. My mom's definition of success back in the day was very different from me. So it's a very relative term. It's not kind of set in stone. I had this recently. I attended a digital leaders conference, which was actually held in Surrey just a month ago, and we had about 100 executives mainly from the banks, but also from media industry, etc. I was one of the 4 women there. So there were 96 men actually, and 4 of us. So the moment I entered the room, it was all men in suits, and then it was me and 3 other. So yeah, it was quite disheartening actually. It was quite shocked. And I spoke to the organizers at the end of the event saying, did you guys not focus on the whole diversity thing at all? And they were like, well, trust me, we tried very hard. It is very difficult to get women out there, to attend the whole day event. Because most women have things like, oh, my manager will not approve. It was actually quite an expensive event, probably that could be one of the reasons. Or I have kids to look after, I've got a husband, there's so many different reasons. So what I thought immediately was, what about those 96 men? I'm pretty sure, most of them might have kids as well. So, yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think following on from that, some of the Sheryl Sandberg is make your partner a real partner. And I think that's really important here. I can only assume that the majority of those statistics are talking about straight women. But
yeah.
In that instance, there's going to be a partner, father of the children who go home to. What are the men doing? I'm obviously a white man, so I'm coming from a very specific place.
Yeah.
I think it's as much down to the men and the partners of these.
Absolutely, to support. Yeah, and again, I'm touching over, on exactly the same topic later. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to pick up on the motherhood. I haven't had any kids yet, but from speaking to friends of mine who have, they said it's really changed how they look at work. And so again, sort of picking up on the same point, is it actually a choice? Making sure that you've got all the right things in place that if you do actually want to stay at home and look after your kids, that's a choice too, and you shouldn't be judged for that. But making sure there aren't anything preventing that, so you've got the right support, and it's genuinely a choice to spend more time with it.
Ultimately, you can't have that. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think it comes down to everyone's choice. Again, I'm actually personally quite ambitious. My sister is very different from me, so it's like within the same house you will see 2 different examples. So everyone's completely different. So that's we're obviously not trying to judge anyone here, but then completely agree. But what I'm trying to touch upon is the fact that when it comes to motherhood and things like that, you obviously have a partner, male, female, whoever it is. And it's a 50-50 kind of workload, it's not like, just because I'm the wife, it's not my 90% of my job, it's not, it's not like that.
Sorry, just to say that
Absolutely, and it also goes down to personality of women as well. I mean, in my career, I've been not liked by certain people because I come across very strong, very aggressive. In certain companies, they felt exactly the opposite, that okay, she's different. So I mean, I've also seen that women tend to get promoted if they are liked versus the skills. That's also very, very much there. Again, all of these are completely unfair, right? So it all exists, unfortunately.
Right. You are listening. Ladies, address the issue of neurological or neuroscience, because I noticed my daughter's a dentist, and I noticed how much she changed when she had children. From a hormone perspective or chemicals or whatever it isn't maybe a question of a conscious decision or defining your role or defining success. It may be issues that are much more fundamental to physiology or neuroscience.
I think I can reply to that after 4 months when I actually have my baby. I hope nothing changes, but I've read books on exactly the same thing of how women, and my mom says the same thing, you know, when I tell her, like, I'm going to go on maternity for only 3 months actually, and that's completely my choice. I can go off for 1 year, but I have to build a digital team for Viacom. Just my own personal commitment that I want to go off just for 4 or 5 months. My mom always says, it's not going to happen, trust me, you stay back for a year. But I don't know what's going to happen, it's all assumptions. But then stuff like that, again, it's all decisions, as the lady mentioned, you know, it's all in our hands. If I feel like, you know, this is exactly what I'm going to do, I will do it. You know?
I think one of the barriers of entry to women coming back to the workforce after having children is flexibility. Not all companies work like TfL, we don't all have flexible hours. I mean, I wish all companies did. You know, if someone says, I wonder, and it's great that your CTO managed to rise to the ranks by saying I'm leaving it at this time every single day. If a woman had said that, would they have been viewed in the same light? We've got to have companies that support women in the way that their role has to change when they have other commitments at home.
I was just going to sort of say about the attitude towards certain women. So you said that a lot of people don't do the survey because you're quite strong, but I'm not that way, and I've tried really hard wherever I've worked to move up and up the pay ladder and try and get promoted, and it's crashed constantly. So every place that I've gone to speak to the managers about how do I progress, how do I get like to my career, and there's just nothing. I just get nothing. So, and I don't have anyone, no one that looks like me in other places that I can go to and say, how do I do this? And it feels like the conversation happens in these big places, and then you're just stuck. So you end up leaving and then going somewhere else and doing the same side of the game. So it's quite, it ends up being like really depressing.
I think we can have a chat probably after the presentation, but I've seen that. And again, to add, again, diversity is a problem as well. Like especially, let's say, I'll take Viacom's example. It's a typical American white, majority company. So I'm probably one of the very few Asians, forget about Indians, it's like very few Asians in the whole building. So I mean, all of that factors are also there. Every workplace is not equally kind of balanced when it comes to nationalities, age, gender, etc., etc. But yeah, what you said, I think it's obviously it's not a good thing, but let's chat after this. Any more?
I think that we are onto the right problem looking at the role model issue, but I think it's a little bit wider because I think the role model thing happens all the way across society. So whether you're looking at ethnic minorities who don't feel they can go for a role because it's a white suit game, or whether it's a male or female, or whether it's young whites, poor people who don't feel it's essentially it's a big class system that we still have in different forms. And so the key thing, I think, is just find a way of making everybody believe that they have a right to go for that sort of opportunity. Again, regardless of the nature of the discrimination they believe they see. And my daughter's been lucky enough to go to a private school, and so all of them just see what all their quite wealthy parents are all doing. They all believe that they can go and do that. And yet I went to a grammar school, and all girls were told they had to be librarians in my year because there were short of librarians, and the blokes was not far off. And there's just no visibility of the scope. So the real issue, I think, is to help people see what the opportunities are and to help them believe that it's normal for them to go and apply and try to do those roles. And if we can get that, we don't just solve the male-female divide, we solve so many of the other divides that exist in our society.
I completely agree. And you know what I've seen as a hiring manager, and whenever I advertise for a role, obviously I get all these great CVs, and there's the big difference between how a female candidate would approach the same job versus a male. First thing is the salary. They would generally be very flexible with the salary. They always stick to a range. You know, a male candidate, on the other hand, would not talk about a range. It's a number. It's not a range. It's not going to go up, not going to go down. They want that number. Another thing is when you're asked about, like, you know, for my interview at Viacom, I was asked my 10-year roadmap by my boss. He asked me, what's your 10-year roadmap? What do you want to be in 10 years? Like, I need details, like, literally. So I think that roadmap thinking is also missing probably in some people, and again, this is irrespective of the gender. So stuff like that, you know, I think planning, all of these things, which is very, stuff that we do our projects in the day-to-day life, if we could do something similar with our lives in general, I think that would help us, male or female, whoever, as well in reaching where we want to. Is there any, I could take one more at this point.
I'll add something actually positive to this whole conversation, because everybody is worried about motherhood. I'm a mum. And personally, what I've seen myself, I have always been very ambitious, and I'm guessing everyone is here because we are here. And after actually having a baby, my ambitions have grown, because then I had a real reason to actually go up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not going to damage you, you just need to try harder, and believe me.
That's kudos to you for that. So yeah, so I'll just come back. This is like the kind of last segment of the presentation, and I touch upon solutions or prospective solutions to the problems we mentioned. We've touched upon some of those already through the conversations. So you can have it all. You might just not have it all at once. I think it's important to understand that. Think about the long-term plan, make the right choices. And when I say choices, it's not just career, but also personal. I think thinking from a very young age, you know, probably since the time you're a little girl, but just think a bit about, you know, what you want to do, how do you want to do, how do you want to achieve it. That line of thinking helps. Education plays a huge role here, which school you went to, the kind of environment you grow up into. So as parents, I think you've got a huge role to play. So as you mentioned, you've been motivated because of motherhood. That's great. So stuff like that, you know, it leads people into the right direction. Having it all depends primarily on the depth and intensity of the woman's commitment to her career. Build a roadmap for your career and all possible contingencies. I think commitment, loyalty towards one's career is super important. And to address things like, you know, after motherhood, why do women leave their jobs? First of all, it could be their own personal choice. Secondly, they might just not be committed enough to their career, or their, you know, the career might be a secondary thing for that particular woman. And it could be, it's very much possible. So I think as long as you're committed to what you do, as long as you enjoy what you do, as long as you see that you're growing in that, I think that's all it needs to make sure you're still in the workforce, you're still kind of driving ahead and making sure you can have it all. Work cultures must change. This is very important. Work culture still remains office-centric, as you mentioned, especially in the light of technological advances. Now, at Viacom, just like TFL, we're very flexible. We've got flexi timings, you know, name it all, we have it all. A lot of startups, I can see, are very flexi timing as well, but still, we have a lot of companies who do not allow that. Employers still think that working from home means not working at all. I've actually seen that. You know, it's almost like out of sight, out of mind mentality, which is completely wrong. And this is something that I would say stops women from going back to work, because they know that they would be judged. They know that they would get really bad feedback probably in their appraisal meetings, etc. So I think the whole culture, working culture, must definitely change. Choose the right employer at the right stage in your career. I think this is again down to your choice, what you want to do. I've worked in large, mid-sized startup companies in my career, and it was kind of my personal goal to the time I turned 30. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to change companies. I'm going to go crazy. Just try all possible sectors, and I've done that. Now I know exactly how a large company works, how mid-sized or how startups work as well. Now, startups, as we know, you get to work with some really amazing people, innovative projects, etc., etc. There might not be a very good work-life balance sometimes. It's not true for all startups, of course. Big companies on the other hand, you might generally have a good work-life balance, but projects might be boring. It might take actually years to finish something. So it's up to, again, your decision where you want to be when. So being there at the right time, at the right situation, I think makes a big difference. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers. If you haven't read, please make sure you read it. That actually explains the whole science behind decision making and how it kind of impacts a person's career. Female bosses, as much as the male counterparts, have a big role to play in ensuring that they help women in making the right choices. So as a female manager, I personally tried my best. I always try my best to make sure that I understand the requirements of my female team members. A lot of people don't, which is wrong. And I think as women, it's our duty to build a community of women who we want to help. The fact that senior management or leadership doesn't understand about women's needs, it's mainly because there is no women representation in the senior leadership. I mean, Uber is one such big example, right? Their whole executive team is almost falling apart. And we know that Arianna Huffington is trying her best to kind of make things work. So stuff like that, there's still a huge gap. People all over the world, we can see the technology space, we're growing, it's so advanced, everything's so advanced now. But still, when it comes to work cultures, communities, things are still kind of quite behind. My last slide, I'd actually just like to end with a quote from a book called Lean In, which is by Sheryl Sandberg. The most important career decision you're going to make is whether or not you have a life partner and who that partner is. I think this is really important because just like your work, life is also a bit of a teamwork. It's not only about your partner, it's not only about your husband or your wife, but it's also about your close circle. It could be your parents, it could be your brother, sister, best friend, whoever. But making sure that you're surrounded by that A-team of your life who understands you and who supports you to kind of maintain a balance in your career, I think that is absolutely important to make sure that women can have it all. Yeah, so that's it.